Welcome, everybody. Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, my quest to talk to individuals who are continuing making music, the lifelong learning in music education, what I call music making beyond the classroom. We are sponsored by our business Art and Music Emporium, which is serving artistic excellence. We do things such as instrument repair. We fix other things such as music making. And what I mean by that is if you're interested, we do provide lessons. We also do some performing initiatives such as the annual Community Band by the Sea in Wildwood, New Jersey, which we actually just got the new date for July 26, 2025. So we're excited about that. We also did an endeavor called the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band, which hopefully is going to have our date again in 2025 soon. And it is that time of year when we're recording this podcast that we do tuba Christmases, and we have one in Easton, Pennsylvania, and one in Belvedere, New Jersey. So if you're interested, do check out www.artmusicemporium.com. All of our stuff's on our website. We love you to come and participate just because doing such things is just all about lifelong learning in music education. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe, as well as we are on Facebook. And we also do have a Patreon account if you're interested in donating. Again, all our proceeds go to making music beyond the classroom, as I keep saying here in this great thing. So the next guest I have on our podcast, which I'm so excited to talk to. I don't think we've ever met in person yet. We've
Nope.
talked mostly online. And I know it's been through the Association of Concert Bands, as she's the membership chair and does a lot of the web administration. And we were just discussing, I know I bounced a few projects through AC Bands, and I also have been a big supporter of that group. She also does a lot of different things in community bands. I know she did relocate in the last couple years. And I know she continues to play in community bands. And that's what I find exciting because these individuals who are continuing to make music, again, beyond the classroom. So please welcome Sarah McElfresh. Hi, Sarah. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Oh, doing well. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for being here. I thought maybe we'll kind of start this whole podcast a little bit. Just talk a little bit about maybe how you got into music. I know some people like to reminisce about that, even though, and again, not to be rude. I know it's probably been a while ago, and that is okay because we got to remember those
Yeah.
experiences. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, and then we'll bounce into some of the things you're doing today, if that's cool.
Yeah. Well, I have been in a community band since before I could walk.
Oh, wow.
My parents played in community bands, and they were in a band that did parades as well as concerts. And I'm a triplet. So there were
Yep.
three of us little ones.
Hmm.
And my mom would march along with the band or trumpet in one hand and the pulling the wagon in the other, with three kids. And then or we'd kind of, we'd be in the audience. So pretty much I grew up in a community band.
Okay.
When I was 5 or 6, I started carrying the banner for that band, and that
Oh,
was in Massachusetts. It's the
okay.
Canton Community Band, and sometimes they go under the name of a Canton American Legion Band. It's the
Okay.
same group.
Hmm.
And then when I was 7, I started playing trumpet. So we'll just say I've been playing for many, many decades. Um, uh, and then when I was in like 6th grade for the summer, I got to play trumpet with the band in concert and go to a national convention with them in Baltimore. It was really cool when I was in junior high.
That's cool.
And eventually I played euphonium with them until school groups kind of took over. But I
Okay.
thought everybody's parent played in a community band because mine did.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was. And since then, I've been an active member of 8 community bands in 4 different states. And then I've filled in with others over time. Like I'll play maybe a concert season or help them pick a conductor and just be another set of eyes to evaluate
Hmm.
differently or whatever. But yeah, so I've played in bands in Massachusetts, both sides of Pennsylvania. I was in the Allentown area for a year, and then Pittsburgh for many years. Played in bands in North Carolina and Virginia, where I'm located now. And
Wow.
my husband and I founded a band in Central Virginia 10 years ago. We had to leave that band 5 years ago, so it was cool to go back for their 10th anniversary last spring. So
That's
Pretty cool.
awesome. Yeah, that is really cool. It's so neat to hear. I didn't know this story of you were in community bands before you can walk. I mean, that's awesome.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
So if I may ask, let's just start right there. So it's been so woven into, your fabric, into your daily life. And you made this comment already, which is really interesting to me, how you thought all parents play in community bands. And as you know, that's not the case. We have a
Right.
lot that I think there's not, and we're going to get to that in a second, because I know you're all about kind of intergenerational of a same family playing in a group. And I really want to hear your story about that. But I wanted to get a little idea of how was that like an awakening for you, if it was? And what did that, provide for you as far as, motivation to kind of continue on? Just because, I think it gets lost, and I say that a little bit just
Hmm.
because, I'm not saying that, we've talked about this many times that we don't feel that bands have disappeared, but so unfortunately participation has gone down. Audience members have gone down. It seems like, I'm a supporter of
Mhm.
keeping these groups out there, and so are you starting one,
Yeah.
but I was just interested about that, like your realization and how you're still so interested in it today.
Well, so I will start. My education is in geology.
Okay.
I took one music class in college. That was my, check the box for the arts class and a music
Right, right.
composition class. Where I went, the admissions brochures had nice glossy pictures of this wind ensemble. There was no band where I went to
Oh,
college.
wow.
We had a pep band that was pretty much made up of freshmen every year.
Uh-huh.
And then when I got there, a friend of mine in my freshman dorm, he played oboe.
Okay.
And we were like, well, we're gonna try to make this something because there was funding,
Hmm.
but like we was pretty much a bunch of freshmen playing at Division I hockey games. And then the next year, okay, you try to get new people, and we tried to make a band of it.
Okay.
Um, and it was like because playing was important to us,
Uh-huh.
it just and whatnot. And but yeah, we never had more than like 10 or 15 people.
Sure.
Yeah. But but it was like, no, that's important. Want to keep doing it. And then, after college, I went to grad school. I didn't play. My husband is who got me back into playing. As a
Oh,
wedding
wow.
present, he went to my parents and he got my euphonium from their house, which I will tell you is a 1921 con.
Okay.
Its case was pretty original. It was, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
He gave it a bath, which as a woodwind player was kind of frightening that he called people and they go, take the valves out, fill your bathtub, plunk it in. And he was just like, what? You don't do that to a clarinet, right? So, but then after we came back from our honeymoon, he brought me to a band rehearsal in Easton, Pennsylvania, because that's where he was living and then I was now living. And,
Hmm.
that was his wedding present was getting me back into music. Um, and so that was pretty cool. So we kind of had that
Yeah.
thing. So that's how I knew I probably could have played in grad school, but I didn't have a car. And I wasn't going to figure
Okay.
out the bus system. And I
Sure.
just that didn't occur to me that, and then later we moved back to the city where I went to grad school. And if I had contacted that band, I'd have had like 10 people would have driven me back,
Right.
to rehearsal. But that didn't occur to me as something that was even an option.
Yeah.
Um, and it was just funny that my path took me back to that
Yeah.
band, and we were there for many years. But I mean, it's music for life is, it's important.
Hmm.
It's an outlet, and I was one of those 12-time varsity letter winners in high school too.
Uh-huh.
But I still go to band rehearsal every week. The last time I laced up my running shoes was my freshman year of college.
Hmm.
So it's like, but you always think
Yep.
sports, sports, sports. Well, I did both, but the music
Yep.
is what I still have. My dad is still playing. He's playing in a band almost every night of the week. It's in his retirement, he's picked up more bands that he'll go sit in with. So it's, music's just kind of a fabric of my upbringing, but also just, my family of
Yeah.
with my kids, my daughter, I have two kids. One is a tenor sax player.
Hmm.
Um, but it's just kind of important to remind people you don't have to major in music.
Yeah.
You can go play. And if you haven't played for 40 years because you decided that, I'm going to go have a career, I'm going to go do all these things for my kids, both of my kids are now in college. Um, this is kind of the time where I might have been going back and looking for a band to see if I could
Hmm.
play. but
Right.
I didn't have to. My kids actually grew up in band rehearsals.
Hmm.
The when my oldest was born, I didn't go to rehearsal the week after she was born because I
Hmm.
thought we should let the band sign the card, you know. But the next week they had a concert and we were out there. It was cold in September and wrapped up along the river in blankets and stuff. But she was at a concert at 9 days old. The other one had to wait a little while because she was born at Christmas time. But we were fortunate we had a conductor that let my husband and I only play half a rehearsal.
Hmm.
And that way we could be out in the hall with the baby, and then as they
Right.
got older, they would sleep. I have a soft case euphonium bag and they would curl up and sleep on the bag in the hall, or um, and we were fortunate that we had conductors that allowed them to be there and be a part of it.
Yeah.
And like, it's music for life. And then other people could see us doing that and go, we don't have to give it up when we have kids. But even if you did give it up when you had kids and you started doing things, it's never too late to come back. There's a band out there for everybody. Yeah, some bands are playing that grade 5, 6 music, and you can't jump right into that if you haven't played for 40 years. But then there are others that are just happy to let you sit at the, seat 25 for clarinet and just finger along. And then eventually when you can play, great. And that's the band I'm in now. We've got people who, well, I haven't played in 30 years, but I saw you and I'd love to come back. And it's like, that's what it's about. You create this family with your band. So it's still family. It's just a bigger family.
Yeah, definitely. Well, not to backtrack a little bit, I didn't even know you stopped playing, just because I know how active you are. And and if I may ask, getting back into it, just because I always ask this when I hear folks who have stopped, and I know you got back into it, which is awesome, and kudos to your husband. I will say that, to get you back in.
Mm.
But when you got back into it, I mean, if I may ask, like, was there anything about that you felt was missing in your life? And I know you were in grad school, you were focusing on
Yeah.
different stuff at that time. So I
Yeah.
understand it's a busy time. I get that. But the reason why I'm asking this question, let me give you a little insight is I grapple a lot with folks who, oh, my life's too busy, and I have too much going on. And I agree, life is busy and it is always busy. Trust me. Oh my goodness. I
Mm.
mean, if I look in the last week of the stuff I did, but I played a concert yesterday. And I know you played one yesterday, and I think you have one tonight. You know what I mean? So, you fit it into your schedule. So that's the reason why I'm asking. I mean, I know you made the comment about the car, and that kind of thing, but I was just wondering if you had any thoughts about that, just, in that time of when it wasn't in your life as much. I'll say it that way.
Yeah. So there's definitely music is a stress reliever, right? We don't
Mhm.
think about it as a stress reliever, but when you can go into that rehearsal hall, take your horn out of the case or go stand in the back with your sticks or whatever, you're in a different place and that music takes you somewhere. And grad school might have been a little less stressful if I had that outlet.
Mhm.
Um, college, it wasn't in a band, but it was still making music with people, even if it was just, the
Right.
Hey song. But it was still, that element, and there are those people you have that common experience with.
Right, right, right.
Um, so it definitely there was a void.
Okay.
Like I was excited to go back to rehearsal with my husband. I wasn't like, you did what? It was, gonna go to rehearsal. So there's definitely something that was missing. If you asked
Hmm.
me, could I have told you that's what was missing? I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
interesting.
like the pandemic kind of showed us
Hmm.
what was missing. Like some bands totally shut down, some
Hmm.
were out, making Zoom videos, some were playing in parking lots. Mine shut down.
Hmm.
And we had moved here from Central Virginia to the Tidewater area the summer before the pandemic.
Okay.
I hadn't joined a band right
Hmm.
away. I knew what band I was going to join, and there's a bunch over here in this part of Virginia, but I was going to go be the band parent at the new high school. My daughter was
Yeah.
in marching band. I'm going to go do that. She was a sophomore in high school. The other one was in 8th grade. helping, running cross country. I'm gonna focus on that. And then after
Hmm.
Christmas, I'm gonna go join this band. And it was kind of funny. They're an ACB member, and they had
Hmm.
called me to verify something. And I said, "Oh, and while I'm talking to you, I'm going to come join you in January." And then they came back a week earlier in January than I thought, and I
Okay.
didn't go to that rehearsal. And I got a phone call the next day. "Hey, where were you?" Just kind of funny. Like, you said 3 months ago that you were going to come join us. It's like, I did. I'll be there. But then we played a concert. We played a graduation ceremony, and then the next week was high school assessment, and we
Hmm.
and then pandemic. Actually, we had a week off after the concert, then we had an assessment. So I didn't go to rehearsal that week. And during assessment was when the pandemic hit.
Hmm.
So I was a part of this band for like 6 weeks.
Hmm.
And my daughter came with me. She played 4 rehearsals and that concert. And then it was gone. It, it, it was,
Yeah.
cool back into this. I meet people, but euphonium players tended to be very friendly, right? And the
Yep.
band I was in was very friendly. And, well, what's your email address? And we were exchanging email daily about, what's going on where you are, because we were all in slightly different areas. I had
Hmm.
kids, other people were on one of the military bases, and we were just sharing.
Yeah.
And I still felt like I was a part of that community, even
Right.
though I didn't even really know these people yet. But we had that common experience of music
Yeah.
that we could be together. And hey, you and I have been communicating for years because of that common experience of music.
Yep.
So there's that void that you don't recognize you're truly missing that is beyond the music.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I know, and when you were talking about the pandemic, and I think I shared this with you, because I moved and I took on a different job, and I didn't, I took a little time because I was a college band director at that point, and I took a little time, and I wasn't involved with any community groups, and then that's when the pandemic happened, and it just like you say, that void of what you're missing. Yeah, there was a huge void, and it took me until, I think until you get started again. And I mean, of course, I reached out to, all my friends from previous groups, and we were, I still remember, like you said, I was on Zoom calls from the ones that I was in Center County and around in Pennsylvania, around Penn State. And it's like, yeah, I mean, just thinking about that void. And I think that's what a lot of people don't think about. I think they feel like, and the reason why I'm saying this is because follow this with me. Like when school happens, you're all in there because of the school, and then that ends, and everyone's like, "Oh, well, I did music in school, and that's it." You
Mhm.
know?
And it doesn't have to be that way.
Hmm.
And I tell people all the time, "Oh, you played in high school, you can keep playing. You didn't have to play in college. You didn't have to major in college." I studied rocks and computer science in college. I mean, and then grad school, I was looking at planets. I I have had practically no music theory,
Hmm.
but I can still go play. The hardest part for me of stopping playing was in high school. Starting as a trumpet player, I was a treble clef euphonium player.
Hmm. Yep.
Junior year of high school, I said, I'm going to learn bass clef. I'm going to learn it. And then, junior and senior year, I was reading bass clef. I'm like, this is cool. I can do, like, wrapped my brain around that. And then by not playing truly for those 6 years, because pep band music, you're not reading music,
Yeah.
you're just playing.
Yep.
Um, I didn't read music, so I lost that bass clef
Hmm.
ability. And then people now like, oh, you can do it. I'm like, no, you really gotta put the effort and time and well, that's where life is busy. I don't have time to do that, but I can still play that treble clef music. So just, give me the part. Um, so there's like changes to that music, but yeah,
Hmm.
I did music in school and then school's gone. Well, it doesn't have to be. So that's kind of like with the Association of Concert Bands, music for life is one of our messages. And a lot of colleges have ensembles for majors and
Hmm.
ensembles for non-majors. And some, they're mixed. Go play, just go do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I know like it's just exactly what you said. It's like, get out there and play, and because it reaps the rewards that I think you had when you were in school and beyond. I mean, and one of those rewards, kind of transition to this. I know you And you shared me a picture when we were talking about this,
Mhm.
and I wanted you to talk a little bit about this. And you did already a little bit, but how much kind of family is really embedded within your performing? And I, rather than me saying what is, I thought maybe you can just describe a little bit of what you're talking about and how excited you
Okay.
were. So
Yeah.
I'll stop there.
Okay, so this was 20, the picture I shared was from the 2016 Association of Concert Bands convention that was in Pittsburgh. Um, and one of the aspects of that is a convention band where musicians from all over rehearse during the week and then put on a concert. And for Christmas of 2015, well, let's see, my daughter's 21 now, so how old was she then? But we gave her an Association of Concert Band membership. So she, of her own as a student, and she was super excited. And she's like, "Does that mean I can play in convention band?" Because she'd been dragged to these conventions since she was 3. So, she's like, I'm gonna get to play. Um, and she at the time, I think it was an alto sax. I don't think she was playing tenor yet. Yeah, no, I guess she wouldn't have been playing tenor yet. That
Yeah.
came later. So she played alto sax in that. And so it was just really cool to be able to, she was excited and so I'm playing. My husband is playing and my father is playing. So we had 3 generations of our family playing in this concert. And, I've played concerts with my dad since I was little. I've played concerts with my husband. I played concerts with my daughter. I played concerts with my husband and my father. I played concerts with my husband and my daughter, but it was the first time all 4 of us were doing the same concert together on stage. And it hasn't happened again because the way the school calendar and
Mhm.
conventions have fallen. Um, but you know, um, last year, my dad, my husband, and my daughter played in the convention band. But I couldn't stay for the whole convention because our other daughter had something going on. And it was like, well, one of us needs to be there to support her
Right.
in her thing. And so I left the convention early so I could go there. So it was 3 generations of the family, just not 3 generations direct last time,
Yep.
but I wasn't there. So it was pretty cool. And now it might happen in 25. So depends
That's
what
good.
summer class she's taking. We'll see. She asked me the other day, I was like, I can play the 25 convention, right? I said, that depends on your summer class because if she goes to school,
Hmm.
everyone, you have to take one summer class.
Hmm.
So we'll see. But yeah, no, it was pretty cool to have all of us. And what was kind of neat there is the band that was hosting, the East Wind
Hmm.
Symphonic Band. Well, that's the band I was playing in when she was born. So all
Oh,
of these
wow.
people who remember her as that baby
Hmm.
and then that toddler, and we moved away from there when she was 6. So they
Hmm.
were excited to see her, and she would
Yeah.
have been 12. She would have been 12.
Yeah.
So they also kind of, your baby, you're in a community band, you have 50 instant grandparents and aunts and uncles, right? So there was that added excitement of these other people who had been a part of her life, seeing her up on stage and getting to play with mom and dad. And then,
Yeah.
oh, grandpa too, that's really cool. And my dad had come and sat in with that band when he would come visit. So some people knew him too. But it was kind of the close family and then that extended musical family.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and that's cool, and I just had to bring that up just because I mean, we're talking about this. It's just like it adds so much flavor to like what we're discussing of when you have that union. I mean, granted, yes, it was within your family, but just how you described it is just awesome. The instant grandparents in the band, and the family members who want to see everybody, and it's a big, kind of like a homecoming,
Yeah.
for
Oh,
you. And then obviously that experience is, stuck in your mind to where, even when we were talking about this podcast, right away you sent me
yeah.
that picture, to show me.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's what it's all about. That is, to me, that's what it's all about. It's that legacy, she's a proponent for community bands and the college she's going to, they only have like 30 people in their ensemble,
Okay.
and half of them are community members.
Okay.
So it's just because it's a small school. And so she's a proponent to them going, there's a community band only 20 miles away. I'm glad you're playing with us, but you know about them too, right? And they're like, no, no, we want to play here. But so she also makes sure people know. So.
Yeah. Definitely. And I know I feel like and even though and by any means I'm not saying 'cause I know you're part of AC bands, but just making the awareness just because I think people, feel that it just ends, and that's
Mhm.
what I keep going back to that. And it's, not that, it's like it does exist and there's a larger network now that's out there, that provides where they are. And I know there's tons of people who shows that. And I mean, almost of what I'm finding, I mean, within your area, depending where you are, of course, there's at least a couple music groups going on. You just have to find them, and sometimes that's difficult,
Right.
because. But one
Yeah.
thing I wanted to ask you a little bit, just as we're kind of moving on with this and kind of awareness, because we're kind of there. What kind of things do you see as far as, and I'm probably going to ask you more in the head of, you can take it either direction you want, either personal or with what you're doing with AC bands. How much far as like awareness do you feel that, I guess we could get out there? Because I guess, and you'll laugh about this. The reason why I started this was I wanted to start captivating people's stories, whether or not anybody watches these podcasts or not. I'm just going to say it that way,
Hmm.
to captivate people's stories, because I feel like, just like how you're sharing, the intergenerational, the the families that you get involved with, the people you get involved with, where you come together and do this music making, how it's just so special to me. And that's why I've kind of I've learned so much through them, even beyond schools. And I say that all the time, but I was just wondering what kind of things you see going on right now that's providing awareness. And maybe you want to talk a little bit about some of the initiatives that AC bands are doing, if you'd like, that is, you know, as far as just to get people out
Hmm.
there and get motivated to play again. And just like you said, it's never too late, right?
No, it's never too late. And then there's the whole New Horizons music movement
Hmm.
that will teach you to play an
Yep.
instrument if you've never played one, or maybe you want to change into a different, like maybe you played clarinet in high school, but you found this trumpet at a yard sale. Someone, you'll find someone will help teach you. Um, I think a lot of it does depend where you are
Hmm.
as to what you might see.
Hmm.
So where I live now, in the Tidewater, I'm Norfolk Naval Base is across the river, 40
Hmm.
minutes for me. Fort Eustis is just up the road, 20 minutes the other direction. Langley Air Force Base is here. So we
Hmm.
have a lot of transient population.
Hmm.
Um, some of those people actually are band people, although
Okay.
unfortunately the band that is associated with one of the bases is being discontinued. But
Okay.
that brought some musicians to our band as they were looking for
Yeah.
somewhere else to play,
Uh-huh.
in addition to what they were doing during the day, because they missed that piece. But you'll be that trailing spouse, and
Hmm.
oh, what am I going to do? And well, I played in a band, and you'll Google because that's what you do, right? And
Hmm.
hopefully you find ACB that lists our members. We also have a find a band directory that has a little more information, but if you don't, you type in, city community band and see what pops up. Chances are there's going to be one, unless you're out in the mountains
Right.
or some of the more rural areas. There's probably at least one within 45 minutes to an hour of you.
Hmm.
That was why we founded the band we found in Central Virginia, because it was an hour to get to the next band,
Right.
and that just wasn't what we wanted to do. And while we were fortunate to play with the college ensemble in that town, not
Hmm.
everybody could, because it was a class. It met in the afternoon.
Right.
So we started a band in the evening with help from the college band director.
Hmm.
But I'm it pretty much is just kind of awareness and seeing things. And social media has helped a great deal with that.
Hmm.
You see, like, I saw you were at a concert yesterday. You posted a picture of you, right? I was at a concert yesterday. I posted a picture of my section, and you would look at
Hmm.
us and you would go, oh, there's an interesting cross section of people.
Hmm.
We're different ages, although we're closer in age for those of us who were there yesterday, but sometimes we're a little further apart in age. But it's just kind of I think as the community band does a good job of advertising when they're playing in the
Hmm.
community. You get exposure and people see. And I don't think I've been to a community band concert that didn't say, and thank you for coming. And if you're interested, and even if it's been 20 years, we rehearse on Tuesday night at the church on Main Street. Come
Hmm.
in the back door, anytime. And I think pretty much every band I have been in, maybe with the exception of one, that was at every concert,
Hmm.
come
Yeah.
join us. And you got to get the word out. And that is something we're trying to do with ACB.
Right.
But what works in one area isn't going to work in another to find those
Right.
people.
Yep.
So like in one of the towns, everything was Facebook. If it wasn't on Facebook, it didn't happen. Other towns, it's like, go put it on the library bulletin board, the senior center bulletin board. That's how you're going to get the word out. The local
Hmm.
paper. Um, it's just figuring out where people are
Hmm.
and trying to advertise to them. And then hopefully those people will see things and go, oh yeah, maybe. But with anything else, you've got to, if you're trying to sell something, it takes 7 cold calls to get you to be interested in buying it. So you've
Right.
got to keep being exposed to that group in your area or those people or that idea.
Right.
And I think a lot of the band jokes and things that are on Facebook and Instagram they make their way through people of all ages.
Hmm.
Because we can all relate to that, tone deaf comic or whatever. And lots of people bands will share those things. People will say, "Oh, come join my band." And I think we just have to keep doing that word of mouth thing. And I really
Hmm.
wish it was easy. Um, One thing that would be wonderful is if high school band directors across the board told their kids they don't have to be a music major to keep playing. And I know there are some band directors who get flack when they say that by administrators and that's sad. But
Hmm.
that's where the
Yeah.
kids are going to get the message.
Yeah.
Um, and while there is a national PTA and PTO organization framework, there really isn't one of those for band parents.
Right.
And that would be the great way to let kids in high school know you can always come
Mhm.
back to this.
Yeah.
So the 2 high schools my kids went to, the kids in that band knew that you can play later. The
Yeah.
one we founded that band, and the high school kids were welcome to come. It gave them sight reading exposure. It gave
Yeah.
them, when you're in a school band, you play what, 3 pieces of music at a time?
Hmm.
We would play 10 pieces of music a night, just sight reading, where you're trying to pick what it is. And one of the kids, when we first joined, I think he was in 8th grade, really talented trumpet player,
Yeah.
good beyond his years. Well, he wasn't the only trumpet player that showed up in our little rural town. He
Hmm.
had to play second. And at the end of the night, he went, playing second's hard because you don't have the melody.
Yep.
You've got that third, you've got those
Yep.
offbeats, you've got whatever. And he's like, this is hard. He'd
Yep.
never had, and so it was eye-opening. And he'd only been playing a couple years, but that experience was kind of like, wow. And to the right of him was, a lawyer.
Yep.
And to the left, and the others sitting in front of him was the middle school band director. And it's like, but he was an equal.
Hmm.
So you kind of like, it was just an worldly experience, right?
Yeah.
That you don't think about.
Yeah.
But I think if every high school student knew about community bands and their directors told them it was a thing, we'd be doing better. But sadly, many band directors, they stopped playing.
Hmm.
When we founded our band, we reached out to all the local band directors and well, no one, we needed a conductor. And the reason there had been attempts at having a band in this rural area.
Hmm. Yeah.
And the reason it failed was, well, one, they couldn't agree on a night, and 2, who was going to conduct.
Yep.
And there was someone who was going to conduct, but they weren't going to put all the effort into it. And my husband ended up conducting the band, and it was like, I'm not, he's a computer scientist and a
Hmm.
clarinet player, but
Yep.
all right, I'm going to conduct, I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do it. And, had high school study hall sessions with the band director teaching conductor a little bit, way back
Yeah,
when.
yeah, yeah.
But not all the high school band directors that we reached out to in the area, in the 5, 6 county area,
Yep.
none of them wanted to conduct because they wanted to play.
Don't want to
And
play.
we weren't going to take that away from them because when you
Yep.
become a teacher, unless you're playing with your kids, you're not playing,
Hmm. Yep.
right? So you forget that, hey, there's this world out there. And that's kind of the cool thing about the band I'm in now is we have those high school music teachers and
Hmm.
and elementary school music teachers who are still playing. And some bands have
Yeah.
that it is high school directors, and in other places the directors haven't touched their horn other than to, maybe take parts from it to fix a kid's instrument. So,
Yeah.
it's getting the message out, and we are looking for new ways to do that with high school students too. And
Yeah. Good.
Instagram is helping.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you brought up so many good things. One thing I will say, it's actually my pet peeve as being a music teacher of watching other music teachers not make music. And that's my big pet peeve because like even me, I have a gazillion things I do in a day and a lot of responsibilities like everyone else. It's I always make sure to pick up my instrument, even though it's not as much as I would want to. Or is not as frequent as I'd like to at certain times, but definitely. I mean, my goodness gracious, because you meet so many teachers who don't do that. And the reason why I think that, and this is something I wanted to ask you about, and you kind of brought it up a little bit about how, you see everybody and you see other teachers in the group. Like, for example, I knew my band director in high school. He was in the Allentown band. Well, you know about the Allentown band.
Mhm.
We wanted to go to this concerts because we wanted to see him. We wanted to see what he was doing, and it was amazing, especially when you get to play with them in those different kind of groups that I believe people learn a little faster. Because just like you were saying,
Mhm.
you have that really good trumpet player who's in eighth grade who's playing second trumpet, who's sitting next to a lawyer and sitting next to a middle school teacher, whoever who might have been playing many, many years. And I'm not talking, the experience game here, but just the fact as a whole, how great they come together to make music. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
And I don't know. I don't know if you've experienced that, but like I feel like just like you said, you made a very good point. It's like in high school, and I'm not bashing anything what everybody does, but you made a very good point that, we're sight reading 10 pieces on a Wednesday night for an hour and a half or something, where you're not doing that in school. And how much are you learning? You know what I mean?
Well, and yeah, and school music is so different now than it was when I was in school, and I don't, and geographically it's different too. Like
Yeah.
where I was in Massachusetts, music was important. And
Hmm.
we joked that, like when the football field needed to be kind of leveled,
Hmm.
there were jokes of, well, we only need to fix between the 20 and 20 because the football team never gets to the end zone.
Yeah.
And then someone would go, but the marching band does. Okay, we'll fix it for the marching band. But we started group instrument lessons in third grade.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then and we had those class things in third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, and then
Hmm.
band in seventh and eighth, and then in high school. I was flabbergasted that my daughter wasn't picking an instrument until fifth grade.
Hmm.
Like,
Yep.
it just that age thing. And so you're also
Uh-huh.
now we're kind of like into it less by the time we get out of school. It hasn't been a part of our
Yep.
overall development. But
Yep.
then there is kind of that whole focus on assessment. And I don't remember assessment when I was in
Yeah.
school, and we did marching band competitions.
Right.
I know they existed, and there's a young woman in the band I play in now, and she had a SEMSBA sticker on her flute case. And SEMSBA is Southeastern Massachusetts Bandmasters Association. And I said, I played in that. You probably weren't born yet, but I played in that, kind of thing. And there was that connection, but like that was kind of it. You had those individual things. Where I know
Hmm.
my husband, who's older than me, they had solo and ensemble, they had state
Hmm.
honor band. It's just but he was in a different state. So that
Right.
kind of also just we all have different experiences, and that kind of ties into how successful community bands are in the area in terms of
Yeah.
getting people where did you come from for what did you see? But yeah, and there's just a lot of learning. And one of my favorite things to say, um, is I want to make music with friends and family.
Yeah.
It does not have to be good music.
Hmm.
Because we have people, when we started the band, when you've only got 16 people,
Hmm.
we had people who, musicianship wise, we could play that really hard music.
Hmm.
Instrumentation wise, we couldn't, right? So
Right.
you can't play um, American Overture for band if you don't have French horns.
Right.
Right? So,
Right.
but then your people would come in and whatnot. But it's like, I want to make music with friends and family. It'd be great if it's
Yeah.
really good music.
Yeah.
And and it was good music. But people were always like, oh, I don't know, I haven't played in so long. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
We all just want to be here and share this experience and share music with our community. It doesn't have to be, New World Symphony played perfectly.
Hmm.
It's an experience when you're in a band that can do that,
Yep.
and I am grateful to have had that experience.
Yep.
But it can be a concert of nothing more than the Americana books that were out in the 50s. I don't know, the march size things that have like 16 measures of
Yeah.
music,
Yeah.
and I've played concerts out of those too. Now sometimes they were, little outdoor events that the music's actually perfect for, but it doesn't matter. It's about coming together and having those experiences. And then you grow from that. One of the ensembles I played with, I really had no business playing with musically.
Hmm.
But because of people I knew in Pennsylvania when I moved to North Carolina, someone was like, "Oh, you got to be hooked up with this group." They were phenomenal. I
Hmm.
had some amazing experiences with them, and I discovered I tend to play to the level of the people I'm around.
Yep. Hmm.
It's like, well, they're really good. I got to play that good.
Hmm.
And so just you're elevating your musicianship as you come a part of those groups. And there's things you don't necessarily notice while it's happening.
Yeah, very well said. Because I think a lot of people, you brought it up. I think a lot of people get worried about playing in groups just because, just like you said, the music we hear is the most polished music, recorded music that if they had made mistakes, right, they could do it again. You know what I mean? And yet they feel, oh, I can't do that because I just don't have the ability. And I think they will have the ability and they can, just like you said, you'll get challenged. If you're in a group, you're going to get challenged and you're going to do what is there, but it's just taking that leap to go in. And if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. I mean,
Yeah.
goodness gracious. I was just, I will say this. Yesterday I was at a concert. It was the kind of the hybrid community slash college band with college students in it. And there was a repeat that everybody missed constantly, going back there, and there's a part that everybody has heard. And even we did that at the dress rehearsal, right? I mean, literally an hour before the concert. And guess what? A little bit of that somebody missed and went through it, and nobody said anything, because it happens and we get that. But it's the rest of it was great. And it's like no
Mhm.
one, no one looked down at anybody. It was just like, oh, it's all right. Next time. We'll get it
Yeah.
next time.
Oh yeah. I couldn't tell you how many times yesterday it was like, all right, key signatures are optional in that one. And it's like, oh no, I hit most of them yesterday, But I have played in those groups that mainly play grade 5 and 6 music and
Hmm.
had to start over in a concert.
Hmm. Yep.
You're just like, no, we're just stopping. I have played in bands that only play grade 1 and 2 music and had to start over. And I played in bands that, they were perfectly polished, and you get to that point that you're like, okay, and then you get lost, and people are falling out, and eventually you come back together, and the audience may not even know. And then if you go nail the next piece, who's going to remember, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, and we had a piece yesterday. It's like you don't take the repeat on the second time through.
Hmm.
It's like, yeah, they're okay. Where was the sign? And you run through it. But yeah, it
It
happens,
happens.
and nobody. We're the hardest on ourselves. you might have that conductor who's going to yell at you. Um, but by and large, they know they made mistakes too,
Hmm.
and that's part of being a
Sure.
family,
Hmm.
you know,
Yep.
whether you played in the rest or you, um, didn't, whatever, it happens. And sometimes it's bad enough that you stop and you go, okay, 53, let's go. And, and it happens in all groups.
Yep.
It
It
doesn't
does.
matter how polished you are. And I've gone to concerts, I've paid pretty good money to hear professionals, and they've had to do it too.
Yep.
So
Hmm.
it happens.
Yeah,
So
well, as you say that, and I'm a conductor, obviously, and I think the best comment I've ever gotten was we were, I think it was actually in a concert. I made a mistake, and I got to the end, and it was a mistake that threw off some people, but we were able to during the without stopping, we just kept going, and and at the end, one of the band members looked at me and goes, "Wow, he's human." you know
yeah,
yeah, I am.
yeah,
So it happens, and I,
yeah.
I think that that takes people away because they feel like they see the professional level. And I'm not saying that you're not professional in the community. I don't like talking about that because I feel like anybody can be professional, but it's the
Right.
side of it that they see that well polished music, especially in even pop tunes. I mean, goodness gracious. And they're like, oh, I can't do it. I got to stay away from it, where mm, you can do it.
Yeah, it's all about just making music
Yep.
and sharing it with others. And it doesn't, and if the band that people ask me why I was playing in,
Hmm.
because they weren't trying to play hard music.
Right.
They didn't want
Right.
to play hard music,
Right.
have a couple rehearsals, put on a concert. Every every band has its own identity.
Hmm.
Every band is different. We're the same in many ways, but we're different. And every band fills a niche for the people who are in it. And one of the cities I played in, there was a band that rehearsed on Monday night, Tuesday night, and Thursday night. There was no Wednesday night. It was Monday. Um, and there are people who played in all three of those. Those three bands played different music. At the time, they were all about the same quality.
Hmm.
But each band provided something different, whether one was playing more jazzy and pops music, and one was playing more transcriptions, and one was playing more show tunes or more traditional, and some were mixing them more, depending on the
Yeah.
concert. But each band serves its members and its community. And if it
Hmm.
didn't, it wouldn't exist, right?
Yeah.
So, that band that I played in that didn't, we played some hard music.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, we never ever planned to perform it, but it was something fun to try to do. But
Yeah.
it was fun.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed driving the 40 minutes to get to that band on certain nights, depending on the weather, to go play with these people
Hmm.
because it was fun to play with these people and play this different music.
Hmm.
Um, when I lived in other places, I was like, no way am I driving that far to play with a band.
Right.
But I will if it's my only option
Yeah.
because
Right.
I want that musical experience. So, and that's something I ask, a lot of people. It's like how far would you go for this? And I know people who one night a week they're traveling 2 hours to go play a rehearse.
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine doing that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
another night of the week they're only driving 20 minutes. So what is it about that band that on Tuesday you're willing to drive 2 hours there?
Hmm.
But the secretary of the band I play in now, she lives across one of the other rivers and up a ways. She's got an hour and a half drive at a good time, and
Wow.
if it's raining or whatnot, um, it's even longer, but she's making that commute. We've got other people who are making the commute from, other directions that it's like, yeah, and if there's traffic, it could be an hour.
Yeah.
Um, so depending on where you are, and there are other bands,
Yeah.
they could go play in other bands, but this is the band they found first, or this
Yeah.
is the band that for whatever reason, it's home.
Yeah, and
And
that's what I was going to ask you. Did they give you any reasons? Just because, I figured it's probably, maybe connections of who done, what group they've
Mhm.
got involved with or something. But I mean, I know you've asked people, especially, they travel so far and
Yeah.
I mean, did anybody answer you?
Well,
As far as that?
some are, it's the band I played in when I was in high school. I
Mhm.
moved away. I came back. Well, I don't live in the town anymore. I now live
Yeah.
somewhere else. My dad travels. There's his main community band is in the town next door. The band
Okay.
that he played in, he no longer plays in the band that I grew up in.
Okay. Hmm.
Different night of the week he plays somewhere else. But that band still exists and it's a
Yeah.
couple miles down the road as well. But he's also traveling to the next state to play now. And from Massachusetts, that's not too far, but he plays in
All
bands
right.
in Rhode Island. He'll play in a band out in the western part of the state. That when I was a kid, it was like, why you didn't like driving over there, but it's a musical experience and life's different
Yep.
now. I
Yep.
mean,
Hmm.
it's we're willing to roads are better if nothing else. But
Yeah, definitely.
it's
Yep.
but there are different things that sing to you, that click to
Hmm.
you. When we lived in North Carolina, there were the four bands. My
Hmm.
husband and I played in multiple bands. We
Hmm.
did not play in the same multiple bands
Okay. Hmm.
because there were different things for each of us in those bands. And yeah, I had the kids with Girl Scouts at
Hmm.
one, every other week, but the
Yep.
conductor's like, that's okay, come every other week. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I didn't want to be that
Right.
every other week person.
Right.
And I
Right.
had other options, but that band also wasn't, even though it was some of the same people I played with on another night of the week,
Yeah.
it wasn't what I was looking for. And when I moved over here, there was another band that it was like, oh, you're going to come join. Oh, I'm so excited you're coming. You're going to join my band, right? And it was like, no, I'm not, because what you're doing is not what I'm looking for in a band right now.
Yeah.
I enjoy going and listening to that band. I have friends perform in that band.
Yeah.
Um, I have directed some of the music students I knew when I
Hmm.
come across them here. It's because
Hmm.
they're from around here. This is where their career path took them.
Right.
I send them to that band to play. It's a great band. It's just not what I was looking for right now. And there's a band for everybody,
Hmm.
and it's out there.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, hey, as we're kind of wrapping this up a little bit, in our discussion of this, and this might be more of a deeper question, so I want to give you a few seconds to think about this. I usually ask folks in this podcast at this point, what would you say to somebody, as far as who's looking for, um, you know, playing again or interested in music or want to come out there? And I think we've already covered that a lot in here already. So I actually wanted to ask a little bit more of a personal question, if I could. You made a comment about, kind of leading and feeding off of this of, bands. Everyone's looking for a particular band, or it might be something that's going to work for them. And I was just interested if you could share with all of us, and we'll kind of wrap this in and wrap it up with how people could get involved. What are those music making experiences that you're looking for? And why you do all this stuff you do. And for example, I will just say, just because you just said you're active with, I think you said 10 community groups and you're involved with AC bands, you know, and it's all that time. And I'm just saying that time not to be, and most of that time's I call it the recreational time, right? It's volunteer time. It's not
Mhm.
you're out there performing and doing and being involved with those ensembles. And I think that's what a lot of people see sometimes and like, oh, I don't know if I could do that or that time commitment. But there's something in there that I feel that is really meaningful for you to continue making that music. And I think I know what it is, but I don't know. I wanted to ask that question because I thought that would be a good wrapping up spot because
Yeah.
I think when you're looking at music making and doing this, how you keep motivated, and keep could be challenged. I don't know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I guess just joy. And I'm only
Okay.
in one group right now,
Okay.
although we did form during the pandemic, the euphoniums got together and we just played quartet music,
Okay.
sitting 20 feet apart in a church.
Got
And then after that, we got a
it.
gig.
Yeah.
And we got a gig, and that group is continued. And we play a German Christmas market. So this week we're rehearsing for the first time in a year. But it's the joy of the people. It's the joy of making music together. Um, and just I don't know, just being with people in that common experience.
Hmm.
Um, and you could get that if you played pickleball and you're going to a club, or you're going to the Y and you're
Hmm.
in a swim class or whatever. It's just for me at this stage in my life, still, it is music. And just there's a lot of cool people in a band, you know.
Hmm.
You've moved a lot, I've moved a lot.
Hmm.
You want to find a realtor, you want to find a doctor, you want to you ask, what are the things you ask people? Chances are one of those people's in the band, you know. It's just kind of that instant community of diverse experiences and diverse ages. I mean, how many bands have people that are from teenagers to octogenarian is what we say, you know?
Hmm.
And the band I'm in now, we don't have any, we might have high schoolers soon because marching season just ended.
Hmm.
We lost them when school started, but it's that thing, and you get to just share experiences, and not just music, but music is what brings us together. Is
Yeah.
that kind of what you were expecting?
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Yeah, because I asked that question just because and it's funny you bring that up, and I think I mentioned this in one of the podcasts, like me moving around. I always laugh. I go to a different area, and I always know someone.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is my mom said, "How do you know somebody?" And I'm like, "Well, music's a small world." And she goes, "Well, what do you mean?" Like, for example, when I left state college, there was a gentleman up in New Hampshire that was part of the state college, bands and would come through at certain times and visit and play. Well, we went out to eat because he lived, from where I
Mhm.
was, like maybe 40 minutes or something. But still,
It's
you had
close
that
enough.
connection. Yeah, it's close enough, and that's when we were in New Hampshire.
One of my favorite things is looking at, a Facebook friend suggestion.
Hmm.
And there's someone I was like, I met them at an ACB convention. We're playing euphonium. Their
Hmm.
sister was in the band.
Yep.
We take the picture. You friend each other so you can share the pictures after, right? And maybe you
Hmm.
stay connected, maybe you don't. I'm like, how do you know her? I went to her where I was going to grad school. Their niece was an undergrad. And it
Hmm.
was, oh, and how do you know? Oh, and this person I went to college with is a teacher at the same high school they teach at. So there's someone from my high school, someone from college, someone from graduate school, and someone I just met in this kind of adult music world of my life, and you're all
Hmm.
connected. And because it's kind of neat. And that happens a lot. And it's not just the people who friend everybody and have 4,000 friends.
Hmm.
It's, you know, I mean, it's neat to go, oh, I wonder how you two interacted. I bet you were at the same conference. And somebody's like, no, no, that's my brother-in-law. It's like, oh, okay. But it is that small world, and you
Yep.
do know somebody somewhere.
Yep.
You may not know them well, but yeah, there was a band director over here who knew we were moving over here before some of my closest friends because I wanted help finding a realtor. You
Hmm.
know,
Yep.
we need to find a place to live before we tell people we're moving.
Yep.
It's just the way it works.
Yeah, I
It's
know
it's
it's such a crazy community, and I think that's what a lot of folks like, and I will say this, you're missing out, if you're not involved
Yeah.
with it, just because, you had that if you were involved in high school, and if you didn't, that's okay too. It is out there for you, and it provides so much, and from the music making, from the experiences that you'll have, so. But I want to say thank you, Sarah, for being on this. I do want to say you've been an inspiration just for all the dedication I know you have with community bands. Because as you know, I did research in the big fancy college, and right away I found you, right? And
Yeah.
we've been talking since then. And especially with what you're doing with the Association of Concert Bands. So if make sure if you're watching this podcast, do check that out. I mean, people spend like yourself hours putting together this organization just to help others. And, and I thank you all for that, just because, and especially you starting a group and continuing to playing, it just makes my, as I say, it makes my heart warm because, that's what it is to me as being a teacher, watching people continue making music,
Yeah.
because I think that, yeah, I'll get off my high horse, but
Yeah.
I think it ends, and I don't want it to end for anybody because it'd be lifelong making of experiences.
Yeah. I know people who played until they were 100. And I wish I had that journal right here because that band I played with in Pittsburgh, we had him on the cover of one of our issues. His name was Jim Hanna,
Mhm.
the trumpet player, amazing craftsman in his with woodworking and stuff. But he was still playing well into his 90s. And on his 100th birthday, they had a huge celebration, and he played trumpet then. So I mean, for all of us to be able to do that, would
Yes.
be amazing.
Yes, it is. Yes.
So
Very well said.
music for life.
That's right.
Music.
Oh, I know. I'm hoping I can still pick up my euphonium that day in those years. I'll
Yeah.
say it that way. But we have stands. We can
Yes.
always make it work. We can always
Yeah,
make it work.
you can. I know someone who does.
Well, thank you again, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.